This is Devin Croswell with Sherpa Design, and I'm going to take a quick look at controlling and modifying the direction of a hole that I add to a body I create. And so first I need to create that body. I'm going to use the extrude tool and reset that dialog. Then I'm going to jump in and sketch a simple rectangle. We'll use rectangle from center, from the origin, drop in a couple of curves there. Then I will define it somewhat. Type in 300 and let's go 500. Then I'm going to let that extrude up a reasonable thickness to put a hole in. And I'm going to put a hole in the top of this part, but I'm going to make sure that I'm controlling it with a vector direction instead of just being normal to face like I might think of holes being most of the time. And I'm going to have it down from the top but at an angle, and I want to be able to control that angle and then also adjust that angle to see different iterations of what that hole direction does to my part as it subtracts from it. So I'm going to add in some datum features, datum plane controlling the angle, and then a vector kind of representing the direction of my hole. So I'm going to add in a datum plane, and we'll go at angle. So I'll just pick either the top or front face, and then also the edge nearby. And then I want that angle to be, if I can grab the right ball adjuster here. Let's say I want that to be 45. We'll start with. So 45 there. That's going to help me control it. It's going to have that value, that parameter value inside this datum feature. Then I'm going to add in a representation of the vector, the datum axis. So we're just going to use the inferred here as well. I'm going to use that datum plane that I just created. Then I'm going to also use the intersection of the YZ plane. And I am going to be going down through the part, so I'm going to go ahead and change that axis orientation. So I'm going to expand that and reverse the direction for my vector. So I'll click OK, and then I have a vector to use for my hole. Reset that dialog as well. And I can place this hole either by selecting an existing point, sketching something in with a lot of detail, or just placing it on the top and see what I have there. So right now I'm using a normal to face direction. I do want this to go all the way through my part, so I'm going to change the depth limit to through body. I also want to make it a little bit bigger. I'm just going to use this drag handle to open up that hole diameter. You can see also that I have access to linear dimensions to place this hole, but I'm going to actually jump into the sketch. Even though I've dropped in the point that I'm going to use, the placement, I'm going to jump into the sketch so I can get a little more detailed on how to place this point. And I want this point to snap onto the origin, just be right in the middle there. I am going to have to change my selection scope. So right now I'm only selecting things within my active sketch, and that origin point is outside of my sketch environment. So I'm going to change to entire assembly, or I could use my include button to include that into my environment. And now I'm going to use my relations here to make this point coincident with that other origin point. But first I need to relax my dimensions. Right now I have these parameter-based dimensions. They are persistent, and they're not going to allow me to move that without relaxing. In fact, if I take a look at doing that first, select those 2 points and then make those coincident, I am going to get that make coincident error. It's going to tell me that I need to either relax dimensions or relations based on the thing I'm trying to do in my sketch environment right now. So I'm going to go ahead and relax those dimensions, and I'll make that coincident with the center point. Go ahead and click Finish. And I'm going through the part, but I want to go through at this specific angle from that point. So I'm going to select as a whole direction along a vector. When I switch to along a vector, I try and select this vector. You're going to notice that I'm not able to select that. And it's this quick access for selection intent. There's a pull down here that allows me to specifically select how I want that vector to be oriented. And in this case, I just want to select any vector that I've created, that I've added, and so I'm going to use this inferred vector option. So I'm switching from what I had selected before, which is the face normal, to selecting this vector, and it allows me to go down through the part. It is automatically subtracting, but I could create a standalone body and then add some detail to that whole solid and subtract it later with the standalone subtract tool. But most of the time I'm probably going to just have that subtract right away. Another thing in this whole interaction that we don't normally see is there is an extend start. This will be on by default. And if I show the result as it is now with the extend start, you'll notice that the preview I'm getting doesn't open up an entire hole on the top surface. It just has this solid that it's creating to subtract away, but the extend start allows that material to be pulled above that top surface and break through. If I don't have that on and I show the result, it just kind of cuts halfway through. So a lot of options here in this whole tool. I'm going to go ahead and have that extend start. Most of the time we're not noticing that because I'm normal to the face, and so it is extending the start, but I'm not really noticing that it's doing that. So I have my hole, it's going down through my part. I'm going to hide my datum planes here and my datum coordinate system just so I can get a look at my part. Maybe I want that to be a little bit bigger. And then if I want this at a different angle, I could go into my datum plane and move this and then click OK and wait for my features to update and see what that does to my part. But there's a trick here on the part navigator where I can access those parameter values outside of the feature itself. So if I select on the feature that I want and then I expand in the lower left here, details, there's a details section, I have access to all the parameters and the values that are part of the selected feature. So in this list, I have a 45-degree angle datum feature, and I can double click on that and I can quickly change to 57 and see what that does to my part. Maybe I zoom in a little bit to get a good look at what it's doing. Go 33 or 67. Just to kind of see what's my hole going to do. Maybe I go 40 instead and take a look. And so just really quickly, I can take any feature that has parameters to it and access those outside of the feature itself and make quick changes to what's in front of me without having to roll back and edit and then wait for my features to update and hope nothing fails and things like that. Things could still fail in this manner, but I find it nice to be able to have that other option for editing my features and seeing what it does to my part. So just a couple of quick tricks on controlling and modifying the whole direction that we're adding to our parts via the vector selection.